and this is part 3, writing for publication. So it's important to know why publishing research is essential. Manuscript and research publication is an important means to disseminate the findings of individuals, researchers, and scientists. If your work does not get published, who will read it? It is through the completion of research and publication with the dissemination of these findings that evidence-based practice in more than just one discipline is established. I once had a very smart nurse scientist tell me that every good manuscript has a home. So if you're doing the right work, if you're following good guidelines, and you've got a scholarly written paper, or even just a beginning paper that needs some polishing, but is a good manuscript, then it will get published. You just need to submit it to the right places, and sometimes more than one, more than two, or more than 3 places. But again, every manuscript has a home. Literature review papers will almost always need revision before submission of consideration for publication. Now this is especially true if for some reason this is an academic paper, say students in graduate school or undergraduate school, or if you're a new researcher. Usually literature reviews are quite long, but when you get them to publication, they shorten up some, so those original ideas, data, science, and interpretation just need some further summary before they're submitted for consideration of publication. Now, including those pertinent details to the research question or the review focus, while summarizing the aha moments, the aha facts in those research articles, is what's essential for submitting a literature review for consideration of publication. I like to talk about the use of direct quotes because I do often feel that sometimes these are overused. So I want to make sure in your literature review that you're using direct quotes when they're appropriate. So direct quotes really should be reserved for when the author of the review can simply not say it better than the researcher of the included study. So if you find that there's just a sentence or a couple sentences that you simply cannot say better than that author, that is the time to say it in your paper with a direct quote. But you want to make sure that it adds to the significance of the portion of the paper that you're writing in. So I have here an example of an effectively used direct quote. Several barriers were reported by nurses: lack of institutional support, lack of clinical experience, assertiveness problems, power struggles, professional and family obligations, lack of a mentor or role model, associated costs, and distance. Now here's the direct quote. But only one barrier, time, was selected by greater than 50% of the nurses. See how this is something that really the author just could not have said better of the review than the author of the research paper itself. And it really adds to what that sentence is communicating and then essentially what it means for that review. All right, so organizing manuscripts is really important, and you want to consider some key factors here. Clarity. I have seen many papers written, and this includes myself, I have had problems with this in the past, that lack clarity because of too much verbosity. The wordage is overused, there's too many ideas in one paragraph, or getting off on a tangent or saying too much, and it makes the paper lose clarity. You want to be sure that when you're writing a literature review, especially a systematic or critical review, that your paper is clear. And sometimes as authors, we like to think that using the biggest words and the greatest amount of writing is what's necessary, but really a paper that is succinct and clear is a better paper. So precision, specificity, accuracy, relevance, and consistency, all of those kind of go along in the same idea here, as well as logicalness, depth, completeness, significance, and fairness or adequacy for purpose. I do want to touch on significance because that is something that is very key in nursing, health disciplines, and many other disciplines, but nursing in general. How many times do you see the significance in nursing when you read a paper? It is important Why is it significant to our discipline? Why is it significant to any health discipline? You want to make sure that the significance of the paper is there. All right, so with regard to writing style, grammar matters. Now, if this is an area of weakness for you, or it's not something that you are really great at, please don't be discouraged. Grammar is something that we all still struggle with, even as adults. But if you know that you are someone who struggles when to know where to put a comma or a semicolon, colon, a dash, or sentence structure, don't be afraid to find resources that can help you with this. The Al Purdue website, the online writing lab at Purdue University, is an excellent resource for everyone. There's also, at the end of my presentation, I do have some other additional helpful resources that may be good for you if you're having some issues with scholarly writing or simple things. Sentence structure, paragraph formation, when to use what words, punctuation, avoiding passive language, and then of course the format. Usually it's APA in nursing. All of that is essential. So you want to make sure that you have a good idea of that before you are submitting your literature review for consideration of publication. Another good idea is to have others read your work. A successful manuscript can usually be read and understood by others who have the same level of education or higher than yourself outside the discipline of nursing. So, if you are a nurse and you are writing a paper for the discipline of nursing, have somebody that you know outside of nursing, either education, psychology, social work, any other discipline that's closely related, but they should be able to understand and comprehend your paper regardless of the fact that they're not even a nurse. So if they understand it, then that's a good indication that your writing is clear, at least. All right, so review tables. A lot of journals will appreciate or even require a table of included studies that are found in your review. So this table is basically a snapshot of all of the studies, that you've included in your review, and it's a clear summary. They may ask for publication year, the measures that were used, results, and more, variables, whether they be independent or dependent, possibly the study design. A good way to find out what journals like in their review tables is to simply find another literature review that has been published in that journal and see what's been included in their tables there. Gerard does have a system known as the matrix system that helps to develop tables for literature review. It really works well. So this is an example of a review table in a published journal, a peer-reviewed journal. See here we have the author, title in the journal, the year it was published, what the purpose of the study was, what the variables were. This may be dependent or independent. Who were the subjects, and or participants. What was the design of the study? And then some comments. Usually in the comments section you'll have what the results or findings were. But again, you can find out what is appreciated in these review tables by simply looking up a literature review that has been previously published in this journal. All right, find a journal that fits. You really do not want to search for a journal that fits, or search for a paper that fits your journal. You want to do that the other way around. You want to know and love your paper and then find the journal that fits it perfectly. Your literature review will be pertinent and relevant to the aims of some journals, but not everyone. So a literature review that's focused on pediatric procedural pain wouldn't necessarily be a good fit for the Journal of Psychiatry, correct? So you want to make sure that you are exploring lots of different journal websites. Take a look at what the aims of the journal are. What is the mission, criteria, the guidelines expected? How does the purpose of your literature review fit with the aims of that journal? And if you can answer that question easily, that journal is probably a good fit for your manuscript. You want to pay close attention to the format that's required. Some nursing journals actually use AMA format, not APA. Many have page or word limitations, specific format for abstracts, title page, or even body of the manuscript. And that can be really hard with a literature review because literature reviews tend to be some of the more lengthy type of papers because you are summarizing several different studies in one paper. You also want to be sure that the journal is peer-reviewed. All right, so when corresponding with the journal or the editors, there are a couple things that are typical. Query letters is one of those things. There are some journals that really appreciate query letters or emails, while others specifically ask that you do not write these anymore. So when I say that it's important for you to investigate and assess your journal online, that's very important. Many journals on their main websites will specifically say things like query letters are welcome, query letters are expected, or simply that query letters are not expected or that we do not respond to query letters. So make sure that you know that. A query letter is essentially something that is an inquiry. So you're asking the main editor or associate editors whether they may be interested in a paper that focuses on such and such. You want to review the website, like I said, carefully for a lot of information on the appropriateness of a query letter for your desired journal. The editor or editorial board information is usually found right on the main website, and that's who you can write for the query letter. Now, a covered letter is something that's required for all submissions of consideration for publication. This is essentially a formal letter from the corresponding author with their name and information at the top. Okay, it typically will include the name of the journal, and on the next line there's a greeting with editor professional title. Of course, you want to address the editor with their credentials. So if they have a PhD, an EED, if they have a doctorate, you're going to address them as Dr. So-and-so, not Mrs. So-and-so. You want to include a brief explanation of the submission, the name of the manuscript, and then a statement that you currently have no other journal reviewing it. It is important that when you have submitted a journal or a manuscript to a journal for consideration of publication, you're basically letting that journal know that no other journal is currently looking at that manuscript. And that doesn't mean that no one has ever looked at it. It may have been rejected by one journal but accepted by another. But in that time period when you're submitting a manuscript for submission, you are letting them know that no others are looking at it. This is an example of a generic cover letter here. This is completely generic. This is not any real information, but it's just some information to help you kind of get an idea of what the cover letter looks like, with your credentials and information, an alternate address, who you're going to direct it to, and what kind of sentences you would include in the first and second paragraphs, and then just a thank you statement at the end. So the submission and review process, all peer-reviewed journals typically accept online submissions only. So don't be surprised if you do not find a journal that submits hard copies. They're typically all online. It may take from 2 to 4 months for you to get a response. Do not be surprised by this. Okay, I have had responses 3 to 4 months, and it is very common for that to happen. Okay, you will also be notified with either an acceptance, recommendation for minor revisions, major revisions, or a rejection. Every manuscript has a home, as I said, so don't be discouraged by rejection. All authors experience this, and just take that valuable feedback and apply it to apply again. Also, you want to be aware what open access is. There is a reader versus author pays. And do not think that this, if you're applying to an open access, this is bad. You just want to be aware what open access is. These are some helpful resources that I've put on here for you. Please feel free and don't hesitate to contact me with any questions should you have them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and have a great day.